Now we're going to go over the basic beat and how to use the sampler, and just basically how to lay down a groove. There's a couple of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you a way in particular. Um, Suppose you have a beat and you really like that beat and you're trying to get that beat down and you're trying to figure out where the drum is hitting, where the snare is hitting. Well, obviously we should know where the snare or the clap is hitting for the most part. But sometimes there's those little bits of percussion or bits of drums that you're not quite sure where exactly they're hitting on, and you'd like to be a little bit more precise or figure out the pattern a little bit easier. This is just a simple technique that I learned whenever I was starting, to find an easy way to replicate a beat. What we have here, I have the Hold You Down song.
This is straight heat. Branded by the Alchemist. Featuring Prodigy. Illa G. Need a Sky.
What I've done is I've looped it for the first 8 bars, so that I have that first little segment of drum pattern. Now obviously the easy part is the claps, but what we want to know is where the drums are hitting. First, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our drums though. I already have it set up over here, but I'm going to show you what I did. We're going to create a MIDI track, and inside this MIDI track we're going to insert what is called the sampler. If we hit the second button on the left right here, and we're going to scroll up to where it says instruments, because this is what you'll have is instruments, MIDI effects, and audio effects. In instruments there's something called a sampler. We're going to take that sampler and we're going to drag it onto our MIDI channel. This is going to give us our sampler. The sampler works similar to the sampler in Reason. This first button right here gives us our zones. This is where we're going to set up sort of like the keys of where the drum patterns are, or where the drum samples are going to lay on your keyboard. The second button shows you the sample, allows you to do sample editing, for like the sample start, the sample end, the loop end, the loop start, the release of the loop, the crossfade if you want to crossfade in between 2 different samples, reverse, snapping, which helps you if you want to chop up the sample a little bit. There's panning, there's volume controls. Let's go ahead and pop something in here just so that you can see. This will work for now, and all you got to do is just drag it in and drop it in, and so now we have the sample itself, and it gives us all this important information. Now to set the zones up, we're going to do here, if we scroll over here a little bit, where the R is the root, this thing right here. If I take the left side, and it doesn't matter where you are on the screen because it automatically sets it up across the entire keyboard. Doesn't matter where you are. If you take it on the far left and drag it, it'll drag it in. Same thing on the far right. You drag it, it'll drag it in. Now if you wanted to change your root key, this little section right here next to snap will allow you to change the root key. And I can keep it on the same C and then transpose it up or transpose it down, and this is going to affect the tone of the actual instrument too. So if you ever wanted to make your drums sound higher or lower, you can do that easily through using those tools. And if I wanted to transpose it up a little bit, or if I wanted to transpose it down, and it's pretty much that simple to layer other drums on top of it. If I was to drag another one in here, it would set it up, and I can either keep it on the same key and the same root note. Now I have 2 drums playing at the same time, and then say I want to put in my clap. We're going to move my clap over to the second key. We're going to use the second white key right here, so we're lined up with the second white key, We're going to change our root note to D because that's where we are. So now I have that's the very basics of using the sampler. The sampler does a lot of other things too, from filtering to modulation. A lot of the same things that the NNXT does in Reason. Some things that the NNXT doesn't do, and then the NNT does do some things that our sampler and Ableton Live does not do. But we'll get more into detail and into depth on that whole situation in another lesson. Let's get back down to writing this beat. So I'm going to go ahead and can that. What I have set up for this particular beat, though, just so that you can see, I have a rather, oops,